All right, we back in motion, man. Welcome to episode 6 of Rap and Reason Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Jeremy C. McCool.
And I'm Earl Hopkins.
We back at it again, bro.
We back. Episode 6, man.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, thanks to everyone. Major thanks to everyone who has been tuning in to the pod thus far, man, and showing love on socials. We appreciate it, man. Yeah, it means a lot. It means a lot to see this platform starting to grow, and we just getting started.
Just getting started, years of formation, maybe not years, but like a long time of formation, us thinking about it. Now we're doing it and we're in the full swing of things. Like, the hardest part is finding consistency in it, and I feel like we got our rhythm down.
Oh, absolutely. We have not missed a week of podding yet.
Nah, that's not going to happen. Bare minimum, we need to pull something up, and we will, because there's a lot to talk about this week included.
Always something to talk about, man. So, where you want to get started this week?
You tell me.
Man, let's start off. Drake?
Drake? Yeah,
I think we got to start off with Drake, man. So Drake recently released a project called 100 Gigs.
100 Gigs, yes.
And it also came accompanied with a lot of behind-the-scenes footage from him performing and him recording songs. But we want to specifically focus first on the actual 3 songs that were released.
Let's do it.
Let's focus on that. So let's start off. Let's. What song do you want to start off? Which song? Where do you want to go?
Let's
with
do
this
with
first?
the thug feature, like track. The first track off 100 Gigs.
Okay, first track off 100 Gigs. Name of that track being. I want to make
It's
sure.
Up. It's up with 21 Savage. So this is my view on the whole thing. We can start with the first track.
Okay, let's do it.
It's just good to hear Thug again. Like, that's how I felt with Ye and Ty Dolla $ign's album Vultures too. It just feels refreshing to hear Thug, even if it's not in the same confines, same way that we're used to hearing them.
Absolutely.
And just us knowing that, you know what I mean, his whole legal situation is still refreshing. It's always good to hear 21 and Drake on the track, bro. They just have this natural chemistry that you really can't just put into words. It's kind of just like this organic thing. But
let's go.
100 Gigs, bro. Like, it's this is post Kendrick beef Drake.
Absolutely.
And it just seems like this 100 Gigs effort was just throwing paint on just canvas. It just, for me, I think the whole thing, I don't want to blow it up because we have a lot to talk about with this, but like, I think this song in particular is just like everything in my mind that Kendrick was saying about Drake. It just came out and manifested in this whole 100 Gigs thing.
So for this song specifically, are you talking about the tough talk, the gangster-ish nature of the song?
It's him going to Atlanta to try to seek some type of spark, especially after the beef kind of unraveled. Like, it just doesn't hit the same, bro. Maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I'm just blinded by what I just saw. Like,
it could be.
It can be momentary bias, I think. And that's okay, too, in certain spurts. I think in this situation with Drake, I think I need to take myself out of it a little bit, like my fandom for Kendrick, try to absorb. Like, I tried to, like, enjoy this, bro. It's just hard because I don't really rock with none of this song included, despite how much I love 21 and Thug.
Okay. All right. So my take might actually shock you. I'm going to start off with a positive thing about this song. One of my biggest critiques of Drake and why I've never considered him one of the in the GOAT conversation and never could is because Drake has been very intentional about not speaking on any social issues within his music. And to put out music that frequently but never speak on any important issues in the world at all through your music. I always say with my students, I don't even think there's been a song where Drake has even said the word racism. Like, I can't even think of a song where he's even mentioned any, and people will be like, well, he's from Canada, as if there's no racism or oppression in Canada. But he's never done it. And to me, that's always been kind of a chink in his armor as an artist. And is why you can't, and everybody doesn't have to do it, but that's why I would never compare him to a Kendrick Lamar or a Nas or Andre 3000, any of these acts who have used their voice and their platform within their music to speak on different social issues. I've never been able to revere him in the same way. And the reason why I want to bring that up when it comes to this song specifically is what he decided to do with the very first stanza of this song, to me, was impactful. He starts off this song I love all my friends, thinking about this life that I provide for them. This world has some real things dividing them. My right hand, he's Muslim. I'll die for him. That to me, that was very intentional. To me, that was the first time where I've heard him be very intentional about starting a song with a message. Of course, clearly with Drake being Jewish, and the situation that's going on in Gaza. To me, that line seemed very, very intentional for him to put that at the beginning of the song. Mind you, the song has absolutely nothing to do with anything I just said. It's actually about murdering and killing people and ops, whatever, when it comes to Drake. And that's the part I don't like about the song. So I had to start with love. I have to salute Drake for making an attempt to speak on a social issue as an artist, because he never does so. And it's always been something that I've created. Now, maybe Kendrick is making people have to talk about some real stuff. I think him applying pressure in the way, and everyone seeing the way that Kendrick Lamar is heralded and respected as an artist for being able to use his music to speak on all these different issues, it garners him another level of respect as an artist. And I think that maybe this is Drake's entry point into saying, hey, I can speak about some issues in the world too. Even though he only does it in a few little lines, I have to at least acknowledge the fact that he did it. So I will say that that is one portion of the song I like. Now, to get to the rest of it, it's cool. I mean, I like the beat. The production's cool. It's exactly what I would expect from 21 Savage: and murder, music, shoot 'em up, bang bang, homicide. I mean, that's pretty much 21 Savage. Honestly, that's what I'm getting. I like 21 Savage music in the gym. The gym is pretty much where I like homicide music. Outside of that,
kill the gym, you listen to some ops like getting scorched.
Yeah,
I guess, you know what I mean?
But to me, that with Drake, and I think that's one thing that it's strange. Like, Drake attaching himself to songs, and that's what I've always felt about the him and 21 collabs. Even though I always think 21 sounds really good on them, and they kind of work well together. It's just weird to me. It's weird for you, Drake, pop star rapper, to then bring on a rapper who's now talking about sliding on ops and killing people on the song. It's just weird.
But that's my issue with the song, because I'm gonna keep it focused on the song. Like, that's my issue, because he does say, yo, my right man, my right hand, he's Muslim, everything else. But then in the bars after that, he's talking about him rising like Jesus essentially, but on like a drunken night that had him out at 5 a.m. So it's just like, that's the type of stuff I don't really care for. Like, especially given what we were kind of like, what was unmasked, in the heat of the battle between him and Kendrick. I just really don't take Drake serious anymore. like that's really what
that's the bottom. Okay.
It's just hard for me to, especially when, he links with a 21. They have this chemistry, but you're right in the fact that, like, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, him even linking with Future, despite what magic came of it, you know what I mean? It doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't. Yeah. And I think, and I actually agree with Kendrick's sentiment of, I like Drake with the melodies. I don't like Drake when he act tough. I agree. Yeah. I've always said that I like Drake singing type music more than I've ever liked his rapping. Really? I've always said that. His favorite projects for me have been Take Care. I think is a great project.
Amazing project.
So Far Gone, I thought was a great entry into the rap game. I've always liked Even Thank Me Now. Like, he's like his earlier works when he's singing and the stuff he did with The Weeknd. I think that's his pocket and his lane. And I think that the more he tries to lean into the drill rap style in Atlanta, and it just doesn't connect with me.
It doesn't work.
Sometimes, like I said, sometimes the beats are cool, but it's not. It doesn't land. And I think after this beef, it's not landing more.
Right, and I think on that note too, like him going through, like, because the other two tracks on 100 Gigs is Blue, Green, Red, Housekeeping Knows, where he kind of like flirts with other genres as well.
Yeah,
like Blue, Green, Red. It's one of the things.
Let's get into now that we've talked about this song. The next song, which one is the Caribbean joint?
It's Blue, Green, Red. So
let me tell you.
Yeah.
I hate it. Let's start. I hate it. There's nothing I like about the song. I've never liked Caribbean Drake. It's not my bag. I don't know why he does it. I genuinely don't like rappers who do fake accents in any fashion. I just have never liked it. It's just weird. I've never liked Caribbean Drake. So, and that song isn't even like a good version of that. So, Yeah, no, I didn't like it. That's a song I would never revisit again. What are your thoughts on that song?
So I get it. Like, people always hark back to this, especially when he was doing it around Views back in 2016, where he would do the Afro-Caribbean inspired tracks, and he really kind of kick-started like that trend among like American rappers or Canadian rappers or artists really digging into that. Party Next Door, who was his label mate, or at least was at the time, he is Caribbean, partially Caribbean, so it makes sense for him to do it.
Okay.
Certain artists, they have those Caribbean roots, so it was more authentic for them to kind of maybe go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But for Drake, from the time he did it then to now, bro, it does not sound good. Like, stop doing it.
It sounds like Drake trying to do a Caribbean accent.
It sounds like him trying to dive into this dance hall, Afro-Caribbean, like, club type. Like, it just doesn't work, bro.
Nah.
And the accent is one thing, but the fact that the music doesn't even validate that direction, for me, just kind of thwarts the whole thing. And it's exactly the reason why I don't like 100 Gigs, and I've kind of, my fandom has descended. Like,
man.
Really since, and this isn't new. Like, I want that to be clear. Like, the whole Kendrick thing it happened, bro. Like, cool.
Yeah.
But I felt like this ever since maybe Scorpion. So, like, this isn't new. These aren't new feelings for me. This is just affirmation, honestly.
So what do you think? What do you think about the housekeeping joint with Lotto?
I think
I'm personally not mad at it, but what you think?
No.
You don't like that? Not that one either.
No.
So none of the three landed for you.
No, none of them. No, I'm shaking my head because, like, literally, it just doesn't land for me, bro. And again, like, it could be momentary bias. I want to acknowledge it. I'm human, so
absolutely,
like, we're all human, so we feel that. But I think, like, I feel even without what transpired, I feel like I was still kind of just listen to it because it's Drake, and then also peel back from it because it's Drake.
I think how the housekeeping one, I think that could do well in clubs. Like, when I heard it, when I first heard it in the car, I was like, okay, I see what they're going with this. I thought Lotto verse was cool. I thought it was a cool little song.
Yeah,
I didn't hate it. I hated the blue, green, red one. That
yeah.
I liked nothing about that song. But for me, the housekeeping one, it wasn't bad to me. It was just like it was on par with what Drake does with the club type songs.
You know. That's what you got to expect. Like, if you're a Drake fan, I feel like this checks some boxes for you. Mm-hmm. Great. I think for me, like, it didn't, only because, again, my fandom has descended over the years, bro, for stuff like this. But I think, like, for the club's sake, it's going to have some replay value. For your car's sake, it might blow your subwoofer out, whatever, cool, at least for a little bit. May have a tingle on the end of it, like, whatever. But, yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're on the same boat with 100 Gigs. I'm guessing that neither one of us will be playing this much in the future.
Nah, I mean, but how did you feel about the behind the scenes aspect of it, though?
That's a great question. I honestly, I think I enjoyed that.
Okay.
The couple now, mind you, I'm not watching all of those videos. Not happening. But the ones that I've seen circulate online,
yes.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool to see some of the process of making the songs, and I think it kind of humanized them a little bit. On one end, I think it humanized him on a bit, and it was like, oh, it's cool to see Drake in his element as an artist. But then on the other end, it was also kind of strange because you hear him speaking in these different accents.
Testing them out. Yeah.
I was trying to not pay attention to that when I was watching it, but I couldn't notice that, like, he switches in and out of. I don't want to say black vernacular, but like. Yeah, kind of.
Like, certain regional things that he has no business really trying to emulate. Like,
and I get it. Like, we're all, you adapt to your surroundings
for sure,
to a certain degree. So, like, if I spend enough time on the East Coast, I'll start speaking like I'm from the East Coast, even though I'm from Chicago. I mean, I found myself the other day. I called somebody my young bull, and I was like, "Yo, where am I from?"
John,
I said, "I done been in Pennsylvania too long."
Yeah.
But you're gonna naturally adapt some things. But I think that it was hard after this beef to not notice that. But I will say that I liked seeing some of the behind the scenes, and it reminded me of some of the songs of his that I really like.
For sure.
Even what song was it? It was one of the songs that I saw behind the scenes for. Let me find it. It reminded me of 6 Man.
6 Man, yeah.
So there was a behind the scenes of him doing the 6 Man, and it reminded me of how much I like that song. And
For
I was
sure.
like, okay, this is cool. So on one hand, I think that it helps. And I think it's always cool to see the behind the scenes for an artist, especially seeing the process of actually recording. I've always thought that was cool. So.
Yo, it's like one of my favorite things. Like I used to like growing up, I used to watch VH1's Behind the Music.
Yep, same.
Like stuff like that. Like hearing artists talk about the process of the artistry. Like I've always enjoyed that, especially when that video aspect is attached to it. There was one documentary, Look Ma I Can Fly. I think it was a deep dive into Travis Scott's like creative process behind Astroworld, for example. And like stuff like that I love, bro. Like I used to, go through rabbit holes on YouTube back in the day for, other artists that I really admire. So like that aspect, bro, like I love, and I wish we saw that more out of artists.
I agree. And I think that because people aren't watching TV anymore, we get it less. I think because now you get some artists who are going on live,
right,
and they'll connect with their fans that way, and I think that that's cool. But I think the masses who aren't following these artists, who aren't looking at their lives and things like that, we don't see it as much. And because BET and MTV aren't running those type of shows where you get to see that type of thing, I definitely think that we're missing something there. And that's why I've always liked that J. Cole is intentional about doing it with Dreamville stuff and kind of doing it behind the scenes for a lot of his projects. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and there's a real audience there because you got to think about how many people tune in to artists that happen to do that. Like they, open the red curtains in a sense and let you in on streaming services, like on Twitch and stuff like that. Like, bruh, like there's an audience for that.
And I think also one thing that has taken away from that a little bit is I think artists today are overexposed. And I think it's to the point where there isn't the mystique behind a lot of artists anymore.
Right.
Just because of the fact that they're on social media all the time. So because they're on live and because they're on Twitter and because they're on Instagram and because they're always posting, you're seeing them consistently all the time. I think that a lot of artists kind of lose that mystique about themselves. Whereas artists who aren't as visible are usually, I've been noticing, are becoming bigger stars. Like
100%.
You don't see The Weeknd on social media.
Weeknd, no.
You don't really see him do interviews. Even Beyonce, you don't see her do interviews anymore, really. And I think that's for a reason. I think it's to kind of keep that mystique and to make people want to go to your concerts and see you and want to, pay extra for behind the scenes type of stuff because you've kind of created a little distance from 100%. Your fan base. Yeah, but dope. I think it was a good move for Drake's PR team. Shout out to them. I think that was smart.
It was smart, especially after, the situation that transpired this spring between him and Kendrick. I think it was a good move to kind of open up kind of that type of thing out of him. Like to see a different side or a unique side of Drake, I feel like it was important.
Yes.
Because if he were to just fire off with the album, I think that would have been a mistake.
Absolutely. I think Drake, I would love to see Drake just put out some solo songs. I don't want to hear you with anybody else. Put out some music that's you by yourself, not featured anybody else. And I think we haven't heard of any good songs from him since the beef that are like that. We want to hear you, nobody else.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to be that will kind of cement the fact that his return. Not just hopping on songs with other artists and doing features. I think Drake needs to put out some music with just Drake.
Yeah, because 100 Gigs or Hey Delilah that came.
Oh God, I'm glad this pod didn't start when that came out because that was terrible.
Man. Like I'm telling you,
unusually bad. Like that was bad for if anybody had made that song, it was bad.
All you have to do is press like play to hear back what you just recorded, just to know that this should be scrapped, left in the hard drive, maybe with some other portions of the 100 gigs.
Don't even leave that in the hard drive. Just you need to
just toss it.
Empty that. You need to after you delete it on your computer, you got to go and empty the trash. You need to empty the trash.
Empty the trash on the MacBook, bruh.
No, that got to be that should have been gone. Like that's one of them things you do to joke around with and they're like, all right, let me delete this.
Yeah,
that's one of those.
This is some horsing around, but I just feel like he followed it up with the 100 gig. I'm not a fan of it, but I like the fact that he is again like kind of showcasing some things we otherwise wouldn't see from him, because I think that like lets us back in as fans. I am still a fan of Drake. I want that to be clear. I'm just trying to be objective. It lets us back in. Okay, this is why I like listen to his music, or this is why I was like attracted to like his artistry because of stuff like this.
And I can't say that I've ever been a Drake fan.
You can't say never?
Nah, I never was a Drake fan. He's had some songs that I've liked, and like I said, he's had an album I liked, but I've never liked his music enough or connected with his music in a way that I've connected with other artists. I've always thought they were cool. It sounds cool if I met a little, it sounds cool in a hookah lounge or, you know, out and about. Like, it's always been cool music, but I'm not mad at it, but I've never been like a fan of his music where it's like Drake's song impacted my life or his album really, like I've never been like that with Drake.
I understand. I can respect that. I think like for me, certain albums do hit a little home. Like If You're Reading It's Too Late, that was like my senior year of high school, so I was like locked in. What's that joint with him in the clouds with like the
Nothing Was the Same?
Nothing Was the Same. That was like one of my favorite Drake albums for a minute too. So yeah, I definitely was a fan of the music. I wasn't necessarily a fan of the artist though, and he's one of those unique rappers that I'm usually like drawn to the artist, and they also make good music. Versus him in the case where I'm like, I really rock with the music, but I think you too corny, almost like an artist, or like your profile is too corny-esque for me to really rock with you, or like maybe do other things that I would for certain artists that I respect on that other level. Like it's unique in that way. I don't want to bash him, but that's just kind of my idea of fandom for him.
And I've always been this crazy. I've always thought of things in complete reverse. I'm always a fan of the music. Sometimes I know absolutely nothing about the artist, but I just like your music. Yeah. Perfect example. Like I was on Wale's music early. I liked a lot of his early work, like the More About Not the mixtape and all of that stuff that came out.
Classic mixtapes.
Classic. He had some really good mixtapes, but I knew nothing about Wale when I listened to that. I like literally nothing. I didn't know where he was. Well, I knew he's from DC because he had mentioned it in the songs, but I knew absolutely nothing about Wale. I'm usually gravitated to the music, and then I may or may not find out something about you as a person on social media or if you put out something. But other than that, I a lot of times I don't even know anything about the artist. I'm just like, oh, I like this album. I like this album. So usually I'm gravitated in reverse. It's just to the music. And then sometimes there'll be an artist who you hear about doing some cool stuff or some charitable things, and you're like, oh, this seems like they're actually tapped in and doing good things in the Black community or whatever the case may be. Like a J. Cole or like a Hove, or like people who are doing different charitable things that you hear about. I think it's cool, but yeah, no.
That mystique that you talked about earlier, sometimes I can like, the reason why I feel like certain people like The Weeknd and Beyonce, they're doing that because they've already built their name. Sometimes when artists have that mystique, it's because they're weirdos.
That is,
you know what I'm saying? Like
you own something.
They know they're not likable outside of their music.
That's the truth.
So they use that mystique that as a guise to kind of like, you know, distract their fans from really getting to know the inner workings or even their inauthenticity.
I kind of want you to put a name on that bullet.
Bro, I want to, but
Give me somebody, man. Give me like, who do you think that is doing that?
I feel like for
just
a
give
time,
me one example.
And I mean the chat, whoever, they can correct me, but I feel like Nav for a while was in that boat. Like I don't even know if you know who Nav is.
I know the name, but I don't know any of his name.
Like if you heard certain songs, you'd be like, okay, like I get. And I feel like he was one of those artists where he made this trap infused. He's from Canada too. He made this trap infused, like kind of just like, you know, club record type of music. And he would say the N-word and all these other things to start his career off. But he's actually, if I'm not mistaken, from the Middle East. Like he has Middle Eastern roots.
Like DJ Khaled.
Yeah, but he's not black.
Like DJ Khaled.
He either the Middle East or like Southeast Asia, something. But like either way, he kind of put a stiff arm to like a lot of interviews because I think he was going to get asked about those type of questions. And later on in his career, he actually acknowledged it and stopped using the N-word. But that wasn't until after he received a lot of backlash from people that listened to his music. And in reality, like him rapping about the trap and all this other stuff in like Toronto, like it just didn't seem authentic. And I think he knew that. And so he kind of like, again, just kind of veered away from interviews. Like a lot, or just revealing himself a lot in his artistry. Like,
so he's from Toronto. Was he one of the ones who did Drake help launch his career?
I think they did collabs, if I'm not mistaken. They probably do have a close relationship, but I think if my memory serves me right, I think him and The Weeknd were linked.
Oh, okay.
Heavier.
That's probably where I saw some of this. Maybe I saw his name on a Weeknd song.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably where I heard of him. Interesting. Yeah. I could see that though. I could see, especially if you're not who you're pretending to be on your music.
For sure.
I think it makes perfect sense to veer away from interviews because then you open the door for people to ask you questions about your upbringing, ask you questions about, your views on things. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure there's a lot of rappers who do that.
Right.
Because one thing I always have to say is I hear a lot of people in media, you say that, hip hop is autobiographical and that's one of the things why hip hop artists should, be held to different standards. And to me, I completely disagree because if rappers were doing all this killing that they rapping about, everybody be in jail. So 90% of them are lying. I want to be very, or if they're not lying, they're over exaggerating.
For sure.
So I that's one misnomer that all of these people are just telling these autobiographies. There's a lot of people, and this has been since hip hop's formation. There's always been artists who tell the story from the perspective of one of their boys or somebody that grew up in their neighborhood and they're telling their story. It's not necessarily them telling their own. So I don't know how we got here, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's a fact. Like talking about rapping about other people's testimonies, their stories, that is commonplace, and that there's a place for that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like some of my favorite artists, and we'll get into that. I don't know if he pushing P, but like he raps about it really well. You know what I'm saying? And that's Larry June. Like Larry June right now. We talked about this a few episodes ago. Like his music is like the middle ground between what our girlfriends like, what we like, you know what I'm saying? You could ride to this in the Mercedes C-Class, jump down I-76 or wherever. You know what I mean? Like and what I like about Larry June, and we're going to get into his new album, is the fact that he has a sound. I usually am critical of artists that kind of play in the same, like, zone. Like, they rap in the same way. They use the same beats. They even work with the same or similar producers. Like, sometimes I can just get tiresome to listen to, but I think in Larry's case, he really operates in a way or in a zone or arena, and he just commands the game so well. You just got to commend him for doing that. And it's a classic sound, like a Bay Area sound. So to me, it never gets old.
Yeah, to me, he's captured. And I've always been critical about rappers who do that same thing where they continue to rap about the same types of stuff.
Right.
I think Larry June's stuff works because he's rapping about his day-to-day life and activity. So I think it's always interesting, at least. And it's like luxury rap. So it's like he's rapping about all type of fly stuff. So I think there's always gonna be a place in hip hop for that. But even like Pusha T, like Pusha T's been somebody I've always kind of been like, all right, like you still rapping about selling drugs, like, bro, you've been famous for 20 years now. It's
you
like,
in your 40s,
not like you since I was a kid. He's been like the clips came out when I was a child,
literally
small child.
Yeah, so what was that 02 Lord Willin', bro?
Yeah, I was 9 years old.
I was 5.
You see what I'm saying?
Crazy.
So, and to me, it's like, okay, like why haven't you grown past rapping about selling bricks? Like, why is that still your subject matter at this stage of your career? He does it well.
He does it so well.
He does it well, and it's always unique storytelling, and it's always great production, and he can rap. So it's always that's all cool, but to me, there does get to a point where it's like, all right, like, are you done rapping about this now? Like, clearly that's not what you're doing anymore.
You know what I'm saying?
And if you are, you're stupid for rapping about it. But it's like, okay, can we rap about something else? So there's certain artists that I've always felt that way about. But yeah, I think in hip hop, I think that there are definitely artists who are rapping things that they aren't necessarily living. And like I said, I think they should have the creative freedom to do so. But I think that it's just from a fan standpoint, sometimes it kind of limits their growth.
I agree. But in the case of like Larry June, he's one of the few, like I said, for me, he could rap about in the same way. He could rap about his everyday life, like how he gets to a bag better than someone else, or how easily he does it, or how he could ride his bike from outside of his condo, penthouse, mansion, whatever it is. I just love his music, bro. And this album, Doing It For Me, is another testament to just his like ability to kind of command that sound, but also just like continue to build his audience.
Now I haven't gotten have you already gotten a chance to listen to it?
Yeah,
I have not. So I want you to tell me about it before I get a chance to actually hear it out. Now, what's going on with the album? What you think?
No, so this album is just another, another banner for Larry June to hang up in his, you know what I mean, in his crib, whatever the case, because he just knows his audience. He knows what resonates with them, and he just continues to deliver. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think this album, it's not my favorite in the last 2 years, I would say, but it's like right at that level where it's like, okay, this is another really good record from Larry. I think another album or project that really stands out in my mind is Spaceships on a Blade. Like, that's my favorite album from him.
That's a great album.
The last 2 years, but this is again just another additive. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really dope. Like, I really love Magnum PI. I love Stinson Beach. Imported Couches is like one of those records where it's just like
the name already tells me.
You feel me?
Imported Couches.
Come on, bro. From the production, he always got top tier production. He's rapping just on like, this is the motivational music that really drives me. For like other like hip hop, older, more seasoned hip hop fans, that's Jeezy for a lot of people.
Oh,
I
yeah,
understand
absolutely.
why. And for
that
me,
was me growing up.
And for me, it's Larry June, man. He just makes you want to like not only get to a bag, but really have a sense of balance, like in life, where you can have, you know what I mean, like women, you can have the money, but you also can wake up and make you a smoothie for you and your son in the morning and go on a bike ride. You know what I'm saying? So health, wellness, and all those other things. His music, like his lifestyle, is super balanced, and I think this is one of those projects that kind of lands in the same way.
I'm looking forward to listening to it, man. I plan on riding to this in the next week, so I'll be able to give my take on the next pod. But Larry June has been consistent. One thing he does that I've always appreciated is he does. Only certain artists can really do life rap well, where they just rap about their lives and their everyday activities. And for some reason, artists out of the Bay have mastered that. Something about the Bay Area. Whether you're talking about Larry June, whether you're talking about La Russell, whether even before that, whether you're talking about E40, even Too Short, they've always had rappers who just rap about day-to-day activities within their music, but they make it sound so fly that you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, I think that something in the Bay with storytelling, I think they've kind of mastered it. And I think Larry June is one of those artists who has mastered that. And for me, he's definitely that for me now, where Jeezy, when I was younger, was definitely that hustle. Jeezy and Jay-Z were both like hustle, get to it, hustle motivation type artists, where they're talking about luxury stuff and talking about how hard they had to work to get it and all of that stuff, which I think there's a great place for in hip hop. Yeah. But I think that Larry June is taking the place now that Jeezy and Jay-Z and all these artists are older and making music less frequently. I think he's becoming that for the next generation of that artist who's making that hustle grind type music.
For sure.
And it's good to hear.
And a couple of other Bay Area artists that really stand out for me is P-Lo. Jay Worthy is like super underrated. Like,
okay, I gotta check him out. I know P-Lo. I haven't heard Jay Worthy.
Jay Worthy's really on that Mac like pimping type jump, but it just sounds like really, it's hustler music too in a sense. And it just sounds smooth. Like Larry and him collaborate a lot. So if you like Larry, you'll probably like Jay Worthy. Kamaya, like, she's a staple to me in the Bay Area. She's really holding it down, especially for other women rappers, really, putting a stamp just on the West Coast in general. So, man, I love the Bay. And I think the reason why Larry June's music lifestyle is so relatable is because it is relatable, but also because his personality, like, he almost feels like one of the homies. Like, that's why that behind the scenes or those interviews, they are heavily valuable to me. I'm that type of rap fan. I want to listen to your interviews. I want to get your perspective outside of your music and see if we can even connect, like, outside of just, a beat or some lyrics. Like, that's the type of fan I am, because I genuinely not only want to support your music, but I want to feel as though, like, not that I know you, because I know there's an issue with that.
Well, no, but I mean
that's relationships. But yeah,
I was gonna say, but that's a thing. That's the thing for all of us. For some reason, I'm like that more with other stuff than I am with music. Maybe just because I'm such a just diehard music fan. Yeah. That you can sound like the nicest person in the world in the interview. If your music trash, I don't care.
That's
so
true.
so I've always been like that with music, but those are normal. Like there's a lot of research done on parasocial relationships and the fact that those connections can almost be as strong as actual real life connections. So there have been a lot of studies done showing that these celebrity relationships can be just as strong as relationships with people you actually know. And you could even when your favorite entertainer or celebrity passes away, you can actually have the same emotional impact that you would if your cousin or somebody that you actually know passes away. So people actually grieve when celebrities die. Like people don't realize when Nipsey or when Kobe Bryant and these figures died, there was real grieving that happened with people.
Sure.
Because there have been people who've been following them for decades, who they've been a part of their lives, even if it's digitally, if you will. You know what I mean? So so that's definitely a normal thing. For me, that's usually like the cherry on top for artists. Like
for sure.
if I really rock with your music and then I find out you're a good person on top of that and you're doing like, it's like, oh, okay. Like I see where you're going with it. And that's why I think interviews are definitely impactful. And I think that good interviews are really impactful.
Good interviews is the key.
That's the key, because there have been some interviews where you like, ooh, this is how this person is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So I definitely feel that.
Yeah, and man, the next thing that we really have to get into is we're gonna do a little blast from the past, not too far back though. We're gonna go back a decade, and we want to do a review of 2014 Forest Hills Drive by J. Cole. For starters, what are just your overall thoughts before we get into some of the songs? What are just your overall thoughts about this album?
So for me, this was my senior year of high school, and I go back to this.
You be making me feel old, even though it's only a few years different. That was you in high school when this dropped?
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
I was approaching. No, I was in my senior year. Because this came out. It should have came out in December of 2014. Yep, December 9th. Man, like, and when you're like 17, 18, you like girls, like you're doing all these things, that college is on the back end of whatever experience you're having right now. Like, there's a lot of emotions. You don't even know. You can't describe it or place it in words sometimes as a teenager or a teenager approaching and becoming a young man or woman. You can't really formalize what these emotions or thoughts are. And can't contextualize them because you haven't really experienced life yet.
Right.
But I feel like, Cole, like on 2014 Forest Hills Drive, I feel like he really gave me that. Like, he gave me a sense of like, okay, this is what this moment means. Like, I used to go back to 03 adolescence, like dealing with certain things, like, growing up, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. So growing up in Columbus, Ohio, and just experiencing and meeting the people I met at the time and connected with, it broadened my view. The same thing with Wet Dreams. Like, even at 17, it made me look at like certain, sexual experiences or crushes a little different. You know what I mean? So many classic records that when I listen to them, it brings me back to 2014.
Absolutely.
Literally, it brings me back to high school. And this album, just to seal it, bro, it's a hallmark for me in my life, but in general for hip-hop, especially the last 20 years, This is a staple project.
I could not agree more. So it's crazy that you say that about this album for J. Cole. For me, when I was in high school, it was a combination of both Friday Night Lights and then the warm up and the come up, his mixtapes. So I was on J. Cole's music very early. That pair of mixtapes before he even got signed. And for me, before I went to college, he had songs like Home for the Holidays and songs like that was like talking about his experience in college and going to college and being the one that made it out of the hood and is doing all these like things. And I remember that always resonated with me listening to his music and even hearing him talk about college in the way that he was talking about it on some of his early mixtapes. So it's crazy that you had that same experience with J. Cole's music, but at a later time. It's interesting. That just shows how impactful his music and his storytelling is within his music. That it's able to have the same impact on me his emergence to the top. And you had it even at the top of his career. He's still having that impact on somebody, which is dope. And for me, man, this is definitely a staple for J. Cole. To me, it's J. Cole's best project. As far as albums, to me, I still Friday Night Lights for me is his best project.
Amazing, bro.
But that's a mixtape. So as far as albums, I think this is the one. I think those are the two highlights of his career, in my opinion. I thought Born Sinner was cool, but I think these are way more complete and just sonically. He takes you in a different place. One thing that I think about J. Cole is, I think J. Cole is one of the best storytellers in hip-hop history, and I think he's going to be looked at as that in the future. I think his storytelling, the way he's able to tell stories from different perspectives, has always been unique to me, whether you're looking at songs like on this specific album, The Tale of Two Cities. Amazing song. 03 Adolescence being another one. Wet Dreams being another one. Like the whole front half of the album is really all straight storytelling. And he brings you into the story so much that, like, most artists can't do a Wet Dreams and it not be corny.
Right.
Most people cannot tell a story about them losing their virginity as a kid. And most people cannot do what J. Cole was able to pull off with that on the album. And for it to be a song that people actually like and play and sing along to.
And there's only one other record that I can think of that's in the same realm that is like passable or is solid, and that's Fabulous's Cinnamon Apple. That other than that, bro, is Wet Dreams, and I love and appreciate Wet Dreams more because of the complexity of it.
Absolutely, the storytelling is just amazing, and I think that J. Cole. There's one song. This is on another project, but J. Cole has a song called 3 Wishes. It's one of my favorite J. Cole songs where he does a lot of storytelling too. I definitely highly recommend. I think it's only like 2 minutes long. Highly recommend it. He tells a very complex story in like a 2-minute span, and it's amazing. J. Cole has always been really good with doing that. And on here, some of the standouts for me, 03 Adolescence for sure, Tale of Two Cities for sure, No Role Models, of course. Love Yours.
Love Yours is amazing.
Love Yours is a beautiful song. Like the message behind Love Yours, while not unique, in the fact that other people have made stuff about you should appreciate, the people in your life, but he did it. He did it in a unique way by, talking about how no matter how far you get, you always be chasing something else.
Right.
And why you need to appreciate where you are in that space. And I think I think J. Cole was able to really do that and channel that in a beautiful way on that song.
Absolutely.
So, man, apparently beautiful. Like even his singing on this album is good. Like a lot of artists cannot pull off the singing on their own songs well. And to me, in my opinion, I think he was able to pull it off on this album great. Like there's never a point where I'm like, why is he singing this? Like even apparently where there's a lot of singing in it, it still works with his voice. It works.
So you can feel the pain, anguish, but emotion like lodged into his vocal cords in that sense, and it conveys perfectly and adds to the song. Like it makes sense why this record and so many other records work on this project for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to also shout him out because J. Cole also, not only did he produce a lot of the songs that are on this project, which is there's only a handful of rapper producers who are at his level, who are able to actually produce a song, rap on it, and it become a hit. That is a very unique talent pool who's able to really pull that off. So I have to give him credit for that. But also the fact that this album does not have features on it is amazing. I know a lot of people give J. Cole credit, for going platinum without features multiple times. Yeah. And I know that that's become a thing, but it's hard to do. To not have any other rappers or other singers and to be able to hold your own for in a complete 13 songs and the majority of them be fire is not an easy task.
No, it's not. I don't think I think only a handful of rappers can actually do it, bro.
Yeah, no, not many.
Cole might be at the top of that leaderboard when it comes to that. Because I can't think of nobody else. Can't think of any other project that did it and did it as well as 2014 Forest Hills Drive.
You're right. I can't think of another. I can't think of that many hip hop artists that have done it at the top level at all.
Period.
I believe. I want to say. I'm not sure if he was the first rapper to go platinum without features, but I'm pretty sure he was.
I feel like he was. We'll fact check, but
fact check. Yeah, fact check. Let us know if we're wrong, but I believe he was the first one to do it. So, yeah, man. I got to shout out J. Cole on this. Like I said, this is one of those albums where I like the vast majority of it. I don't really skip much on this album at all, so you really can play it from top to bottom. And really just enjoy the experience, man. It has a distinct sound. Like this album has a sound.
It's just a beautiful album. Cole vinyls. Illmind's like hand on this project, like it just sounds beautiful. It sounds whimsical at times. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the intro. The intro for me at 17 blew my mind because I had never heard an intro like this. Like to me, Jay-Z has some of the best intros in rap history, right? And
does.
so when I listen to an intro like this one on 2014 Forest Hills Drives, it's like, yo, it just takes you in that whimsical, like, emotional spell, like, mindset where you're kind of, like, just enthralled in this whole, like, world that Cole creates with this album, bro. Like, it drew me in, and I love him with his braggadocious raps on, like, Fire Squad and other records like that. The only record that I don't think I really play a lot is Hello.
Same.
If I were Cole, I would have took this out probably, and the only other small critique I have is Note to Self. No reason to have a 14-minute song probably ever on the album, but like the outro, I get it. It's kind of reminiscent to Kanye's on the College Dropout where you're doing shout outs and all that stuff, which can be cool. If you're gonna have a long extended like outro, to me, I may sound crazy, but to me, the bar or the standard in my eyes is obviously the one on College Dropout, and even Chances on Acid Rap. I really love because it's giving you unique production and just like a unique vocal range and all that other stuff. It's just interesting to go out on.
I think Kanye's is the only one that I've actually ever played all the way through.
Yeah.
All the rest of them I've just skipped, so I don't even. I really don't even count that usually when I'm looking at albums because I usually skip them. But Kanye's to me was just interesting enough because he was talking about a lot of behind the scenes stuff with different artists and his relationship with Jay-Z. He was just he was doing his Kanye thing, which is just ranting about a lot of different things. So I found his interesting, but usually I skip those. And 14 minutes is a lot.
It's a lot, especially towards the end. He's making up relationships that he don't have, and I know he's just playing like he's talking about. Oh, shout out Jonah Hill, shout out to Dale Earnhardt Jr. It's like, nah, I don't know none of them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just like, what are you talking about? Like, just cut this. But that's a small critique. I'm doing like
minor.
You know what I mean?
That's nitpicking.
It's nitpicking at that point. Otherwise, this is like for me. Dang near is close to a perfect album, especially during this era that you can really try to find. Maybe the exception is like maybe Good Kid, Mad City, but otherwise, like I really enjoy this, and I go to this almost annually.
Oh yeah, no, I go back and listen to this in full often, which is there aren't a lot of albums where I do that, where I go back and listen to the whole thing, and this is definitely one of those projects. So it almost, and it's not as dark as it, but this album reminded me of Jay-Z's In My Lifetime Volume 2, only from the perspective of it being more mellow, but a lot of storytelling on it. Of course, Jay-Z's was a lot darker with songs like Lucky Me, and his it's a different vibe, but definitely still very mellow and a lot of storytelling on it. And I think he really was able to drive a lot of these songs home. And like I said, the fact that he produced on it too gives a little extra validity to him as an artist as well.
Where does Cole fall, like, in your list of maybe rapper producers? Like, where does he kind of like fall in that short list of top tier rapper producers?
All right, so when I think of rapper producer, to me the top spot has to go to either Dr. Dre or Kanye.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre, period. The fact that Dr. Dre made The Chronic alone, but that's not even to get into NWA and all of that. But just The Chronic, So I might say Dr. Dre, then I might go Kanye West, or I don't know. It depends on the day. Yeah, I might go Kanye West because Kanye West I feel like rapped more.
Yeah.
Better. And Dr. Dre didn't write any of his raps from what
he has that voice. Like I will give it to Dr. Dre. He has like almost like the perfect rap voice.
He
does. So I'll give that to him. But like if you're not really, and I know Kanye has done some collaborations with writers. You know what I'm saying? Understandably, but I feel like Kanye advocated for himself as an MC a lot more than maybe Dr. Dre.
I agree, and I think that's why it's hard for me is because I think I value Dr. Dre's more as a producer. Mm-hmm. I think I look at Dr. Dre as probably the greatest hip hop producer of all time.
I think so.
So for on the production side, but yeah, I definitely think Kanye was able to jump leaps and bounds over him as an artist. So all right, so I'll probably go Kanye West, Dr. Dre. After that, you get into. Even though he hasn't reached mainstream success, for me it's probably Big Crit. Just because Big Crit is I just love his music.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that he produces most of his music, is different. But I definitely think Big Crit has to be in there for me. J. Cole, maybe Pharrell.
Okay.
Maybe Pharrell.
I'm not mad at that.
I don't really look at him as necessarily a rapper. He's had rap verses, but he does more singing than rapping.
I look at him more as an artist.
Yeah, as an artist, me too.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I have a dark horse for you though.
Come on, throw
and
somebody
it really
in there.
like to people.
And this is off the top of my head, so don't hold me to none of these.
No,
lists.
It's like it's a like you on the hot seat.
Yeah.
But I think for me, while I love a Kanye West, like as a rapper producer, and Dr. Dre, of course, for me, the person that I would probably place second, and unrightfully, I get it because he's not quite as accomplished, like when it comes to certain hardware, Grammys and all this other stuff, and just general allure, I guess, but. DJ Quick to me, bro.
Okay.
It's like I love
I don't know
DJ Quick.
I skipped over DJ Quick. Okay.
Oh my God.
I'm not mad at that.
He's one of the most, and people out on the West Coast, he's one of their
he's one of
and rightfully so at the same time because bro, like he has classic disses, he has classic party records, he has just classic consciously focused records too, and he just has that hustler music as well, and he just has so many different flows. And he has one of the most unique flows in hip hop, and people don't talk about that ever.
That's true.
Quick as the Name is one of my favorite West Coast albums. Period.
Now you're gonna make me go back to these revisit these
bro.
albums. Okay.
And listen to his diss against MC8, bro. Like that to me is one of the best West Coast disses ever too. So
you're putting so I just want to get this on record. You're putting DJ Quick above who? Above Dre or above Ye?
Oh shoot! Never mind. Let me put him third. I can't.
I just want to be clear.
I can't do that. And I think it helps that he worked with Dr. Dre. During the tail end of his Death Row stint at Death Row Records too. So he learned something from Dre. Certain things rubbed off from Dre onto him when it comes to the production too. So. Yeah, man. I think DJ Quick is one of the more underrated artists, period, in hip hop, but especially rapper producers.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not mad at that at all. Definitely has some legendary music that he's produced too. So, yeah. Okay. I think we got a solid list right there.
I think that's solid, man. Some other ones.
I feel like we're missing some other people.
I know.
Y'all tell us in the comments who we're missing.
Watch them all bubble up in our minds after we get off the podcast, after we press, the record button or the end button. I guarantee you, we're gonna be like, dang, we should have mentioned him. But
we forgot such and such. I know there's some people we're definitely forgetting, but those are ones to me who've done it at the peak level, where instead of fact where their rapping is amazing. And the productions are amazing.
And maybe this is a conversation offline because I don't, who's the worst producer?
Hold on. There's one I forgot, and I'm not. I forgot. There's one I forgot.
Watch it. What? Who? For you?
Yo, we not finna not include Big Soulja. Soulja Boy produced Crank That. Nah, man, we putting him in there. We putting Soulja Boy in there, man. I don't care what you look. We got it. Now he's not in front of none of the people we just named.
Okay, all right.
But we can't. Clear. But Soulja Boy has produced and rapped on hit songs, from "Kiss Me to the Phone" to "Crank That."
What's the other one that he had with Drake?
We Made It.
We Made It.
And the one he did for Nicki, the Yes B Word. Yes, that's also Soulja. So everybody has produced a lot of songs. I
can't, bro.
Why not? Just because he produced it on Fruity Loops, you're not about to discount it.
It's the rapping. He don't stand up to any of the ones we named rapping. Why? But
so you did. Hold on. I just want to be clear. So you didn't crank that Soulja Boy.
Of course.
So what are we talking about?
He's honest. He's not on my list. He would be.
Nah, man.
Let's say top 20. I think that's safe.
You're not naming 20 better rapper producers than Soulja Boy.
I feel like if you gave me time, by next episode, I can name you 20.
I want you to bring
them
him by next episode.
Shoot,
20.
Eric Sermon. We could even put Eric Sermon from EPMD in there.
You can. You're not getting a 20.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm getting a 20. I ain't gonna lie. Big Soldier's a legend.
Bro, Soulja got
I can't lie.
Come on, man.
I can't lie. He is.
We don't want. We never want to give Soulja Boy credit, but Soulja Boy has hits that still play.
Yeah.
They still play Crank That. They still play Turn My Swag on it. Add 9 in there, throw Kiss Me Through the Phone, Gucci Bandana.
That's true.
These are songs that everybody knows.
We forgot another one, Eminem. Eminem produces some of his own music too.
Yeah, but
like I think if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. He produced Renegade.
He did. And that's hard.
And that's a hard beat. So
I want to say he might have produced Till I Collapse too, which is one of my favorite Eminem songs. Eminem, okay. I'm not mad at Eminem being in there.
Yeah.
But you're not putting 20 above Soulja, bro.
Probably not.
20 is a lot.
He'll slide into my top 15.
Yeah, I think maybe 15.
Maybe. Like he might even land number 16, but like we're gonna find other rappers where we're like rapper producers where we're like, okay.
Yeah.
But
Eminem is definitely above him. Eminem has produced some solid stuff now that I think about it.
Yeah. And, like, we haven't even gone into songwriters. Like, there's Jay-Z has written for Dre on occasion. He's done a lot. But that's a whole nother conversation for another episode. But.
Yeah, but on the production side, it's hard to find. Like I said, there's not many rappers who produce the music and are able to rap on it at a high level. So salute Cole for this, man. So, if you have never heard 2014 Forest Hill Drives and you've never listened to J. Cole, I think anybody who's never listened to J. Cole, I think this is a great starting point.
Absolutely.
I think this is a great starting point. I think Friday Night Lights is a great starting point. I think Born Center, maybe depending on the type of music you like, could work.
It could.
Yeah, but I think that this is a great starting point to kind of get a feel for Cole as an artist. So shout out to J. Cole, man. I'm hoping the Fall Off is reminiscent of this. I don't think that his last album got the credit it deserved because of the whole debacle. It's an amazing album. Yeah. I still play Trey the Truth in Ibiza. I play that like almost weekly.
Oh, for sure.
I love that song. Yeah. There's a lot of songs on there that I really like, and I hate that the whole beef thing overshadowed the fact that he put out an amazing project. So
Might Delete Later. Yeah.
Might Delete Later is an amazing project.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like, partially it's his fault.
Oh, it's all his fault.
Put the diss record on there to Kendrick. For those that haven't heard it, you can still pull it up. 7-minute drill. And then he took it off like a week later. So it's like it's his kind of.
And it was a watered down diss record too.
It wasn't like good, especially because we have hindsight now. We know how far Kendrick took it when he aimed at Drake. So even though him and Cole are boys, Cole acknowledged, I love this dude. You know what I mean? Like it could have got really muddy. And I'm glad Cole stepped away from it.
Yeah, in hindsight, at the time I was like, nah, come on, Cole, because I view J. Cole as in those top MCs list.
And he raps about him being in your top MCs.
And how if anybody ever tried, he would lyrically destroy them. He's been rapping like this for years. So when he had the opportunity, I just think I don't think it's that he was afraid to go to battle with another rapper. I think he just didn't want to do it for Kendrick. I think because he knows what Kendrick means to hip hop and to the culture. I think that's why he viewed it differently. I think if any of y'all other rappers try to diss J. Cole, you might get something.
I think so. And he knows.
I think it's just that he just didn't want to do it with Kendrick.
When him and Kendrick united, they're far more powerful than if they were to separate.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Drake and Kendrick don't operate in the same way. They don't have the same fandom, so I get it. You know what I'm saying? That makes more sense than Cole and Kendrick. So it worked out how it worked out.
Absolutely. And man, look, we are in full swing writing this book about Kendrick and J. Cole,
we are, man.
Yeah, if you have not read about it, man, look up you could look it up online. Just type in McCool Hopkins book. It'll probably pop up on Google. But check out a little preview of the book that we're writing currently. We're writing a book about conscious rap and specifically about how J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar fall into that.
Yes.
Coming 2025?
2026, yeah.
Oh, 26. Sorry. Well, I just put some extra heat on it. We'll be finishing it by 2025. Yes. But it'll be in stores near you 2026. So make sure y'all stay on the lookout for that, man.
Absolutely, man.
Episode 6, bro.
Episode 6, y'all.
Bro.
We building something special here. And Jeremy and I, we posted about this the other day. It's like, we have magic here. So, like, we appreciate the support we have, but make sure you're, like, sharing it with other people, other hip-hop fans, and just music fans in general, man. We dive deep into these topics. It's no surface-level discussion being had in this on this podcast or in this room. So Yeah, tap into R&R, man.
Yeah, check out R&R, man. What we're doing up here is very unique, man. There haven't been too many spaces with two young professionals in our industry who are really diving deep into these hip hop records, songs, and culture in the way that we're doing it, man. So follow us at Rap and Reason on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of the above, Rap and Reason. And like Earl said, man, make sure y'all are sharing it. Share it with any of your friends who are major hip hop fans, and will appreciate this dialogue, man. And we'll see y'all on the next episode, man.
Peace.
Peace.